What would you do if your past came knocking at your door, threatening to unravel the quiet life you've built? Al Capone, once a notorious figure of crime, now lives in isolation on a desolate farm, far removed from the chaos of his former life. Yet beneath the hardened exterior lies a man haunted by his choices and the relationships he sacrificed along the way. His dreams of redemption are fragile, overshadowed by the weight of his history. The tranquility of his secluded existence is shattered when a teenager named Tommy arrives, claiming to be his grandson, an unexpected consequence of a long-buried romance. But Tommy isn't just seeking connection. He's being pursued by a ruthless gang, demanding payment for debts Al thought were behind him. This encounter forces Al to confront the demons of his past and the legacy he left behind. As danger looms, he must decide whether to flee once more or confront the very shadows that threaten to consume his last chance for redemption and meaningful connection. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the desolate farm, Al felt the weight of impending doom settle heavily on his shoulders. Tommy, brimming with youthful determination yet tinged with desperation, revealed the truth behind his arrival. A gang led by a figure from Al's past, a name that resonated with dread: Salvatore. The very mention sent shivers down Al's spine, awakening memories of betrayal and bloodshed that he had fought so hard to bury. Tommy's vulnerability pierced through Al's hardened exterior, igniting a flicker of paternal instinct he thought long extinguished. But as the reality of their predicament set in, Al's heart tightened with doubt. Could he protect Tommy from the very world he sought to escape? The fear of failure loomed large, threatening to unravel the fragile bond they had begun to forge. In a moment of raw honesty, Tommy expressed his admiration for Al's strength, yet Al could only see the cracks in his own armor. The years of solitude had made him weak, both in body and spirit. As the night deepened, Al's isolation felt all the more suffocating. The specter of Salvatore loomed closer, and with every passing moment, the stakes escalated. Al grappled with the moral implications of his past decisions, torn between the instinct to defend his newfound grandson and the overwhelming urge to flee, to save himself from the turmoil that had once consumed his life. Meanwhile, Tommy's resilience began to inspire Al, igniting a flicker of hope amidst the shadows. Yet, with this newfound connection, came the realization that Al must confront not only the gang pursuing them, but also the ghosts of his choices, the lives he had shattered, and the family he had abandoned. In the face of danger, Al's resolve wavered. The fear of repeating history, the fear of losing Tommy like he lost so much else, became palpable. He found himself at a crossroads, to retreat into the solitude he had known for so long, or to step into the chaos, risking everything to protect the only link to a future he had never dared to dream of. The quiet life he had built now felt like a fragile facade, ready to crumble under the weight of his past. In this moment of crisis, Al was forced to confront not just the external threats, but the internal battles that had long held him captive. Would he rise to the occasion, or would he let fear dictate his fate once more? As the night settled deeper, a sudden rustle in the nearby grove sent a jolt of panic through Al. His instincts kicked in, honed from years of survival, but the dread of Salvatore's looming presence felt all-consuming. Just then, a distant growl of a motorcycle engine pierced the air, followed by the unmistakable sound of laughter, a chilling reminder that they were not alone. Tommy's eyes widened, a mixture of fear and determination. "We have to move, Al. They'll be here soon." The urgency in his voice struck a chord within Al, compelling him to confront not just the growing threat outside, but the turmoil brewing inside. Yet as they prepared to flee, the ground beneath them shifted when Al's old partner Marcus unexpectedly appeared from the shadows. Once an ally, Marcus now bore the weight of betrayal and guilt that had fractured their bond. "You think you can run from your past, Al? Salvatore won't stop until he finds you," Marcus warned, his voice laced with both concern and bitterness. Al felt the sting of Marcus's words. They echoed his own insecurities, amplifying his internal conflict. Could he really protect Tommy? Was he still the man he once was? Or had years of solitude dulled his resolve? Tommy, sensing the tension, stepped between them. "Enough! We don't have time for this." The young man's unexpected assertiveness surprised Al, igniting a flicker of hope. He realized that Tommy was not just a helpless boy, he was a reflection of resilience. But as Marcus revealed that Salvatore's gang had eyes and ears everywhere, the stakes escalated. Al felt the weight of his past decisions crashing down on him, threatening to overshadow the bond he was beginning to forge with Tommy. In that moment, Al knew they couldn't run forever. The emotional toll of facing his past, compounded by the fear of losing Tommy, became a heavy burden. Each heartbeat echoed with doubt. Would he succumb to the fear that had paralyzed him for so long? Or would he finally rise to protect the boy who saw him as a hero? As the sound of approaching bikes grew louder, Al faced a pivotal choice: to let his past dictate their future or to confront the darkness head-on, forging a new path with Tommy by his side. The night was thick with tension and the looming confrontation, with Salvatore promised to be the ultimate test of Al's strength and resolve, a turning point that would either shatter or solidify their fragile alliance. As the distant roar of motorcycles grew closer, a sudden flash of headlights illuminated the grove, casting eerie shadows that danced ominously around Al and Tommy. In that moment, the weight of Marcus's words hit Al like a physical blow. He felt paralyzed, trapped between the fear of his past and the urgency of the present. But as he looked at Tommy, whose youthful determination shone through his fear, something within Al shifted. It was a realization that the boy standing before him was not just a charge, but a lifeline, a chance for redemption. The motorcycles screeched to a halt, and the laughter that followed sent a shiver down Al's spine. In that instant, he could no longer deny the truth. Running would not save them. What lay ahead was inevitable, and it was time to confront it. A surge of adrenaline ignited Al's senses, clarity piercing through the fog of doubt. He remembered the man he used to be, the fighter, the protector. The memory of his old self ignited a flicker of hope, a glimmering thread that connected him to the man he wanted to be again. "Stand your ground," Al finally said, his voice firm and resolute. The transformation was palpable. The fear that once paralyzed him began to dissolve, replaced by a fierce determination to shield Tommy from the darkness that had haunted him for so long. He stepped forward, positioning himself between Tommy and the encroaching threat, ready to face Salvatore and his gang, not just for himself, but for the boy who believed in him. As the first figure stepped out of the shadows, a cruel smile spreading across his face, Al felt a rush of conflicting emotions. This was the moment that could define them both, a confrontation that would either shatter their fragile alliance or forge an unbreakable bond. With each heartbeat, Al embraced the truth of his choice: to fight, to protect, and to finally reclaim a part of himself that he thought was lost forever. The stakes were higher than ever, but so too was his resolve. The time for running was over. It was time to stand and face the storm. As the gang emerged from the shadows, their laughter echoed ominously against the trees, a cruel reminder of the world Al had tried so hard to escape. Salvatore, the leader, stepped forward, his eyes glinting with malice. "Well, well, if it isn't the washed-up hero and his little sidekick," he taunted, his voice dripping with contempt. Al could feel Tommy's anxious gaze on him, the weight of the boy's belief in him pressing against his chest like an anvil. This was it, the moment Al had been dreading, yet it was also the moment of reckoning he had been preparing for. The greatest challenge loomed before him. Not just the physical threat posed by Salvatore and his gang, but the internal battle of reclaiming his identity, the fighter he once was. Al had spent years running from his past, but now he stood at a crossroads, forced to confront it head-on. The lessons he had learned through his journey with Tommy flashed in his mind: courage, loyalty, and the unwavering belief that redemption was possible. These were the pillars that fortified his resolve. In that instant, as Salvatore advanced with a menacing sneer, Al made a choice. He took a deep breath, his fists clenched, not out of rage, but out of purpose. "You want a fight?" he declared, his voice steady. "Then let's give them one." The realization dawned on him that the outcome was not merely about physical strength. It was about standing firm in the face of adversity and protecting what mattered most. Al surged forward, propelled by a fierce determination, the adrenaline coursing through his veins. He dodged the first swing from Salvatore, countering with a strike that landed squarely on the gang leader's jaw. The impact sent shockwaves through the crowd, silencing their laughter for a brief, electrifying moment. Al felt a surge of empowerment, fueled by the trust Tommy had placed in him and the desire to break the cycle of fear that had haunted him for so long. As the fight escalated, Al's mind was clear, his moves calculated. He wasn't just fighting for himself, he was fighting for Tommy, for a future free from the shackles of Al's past. The battle raged on, and with each blow exchanged, Al felt the shackles of his own doubt begin to crumble. He was no longer the man who had run away. He was the protector, the fighter he had always aspired to be. In that moment of tension, surrounded by chaos, Al's heart swelled with a fierce clarity. He had embraced his past, not as a burden, but as a source of strength. The conflict culminated as he faced Salvatore, the final blow resonating with the weight of all he had overcome. When the dust settled, Al stood over Salvatore, breathing heavily, his heart racing from the intensity of the confrontation. The emotional impact of the fight rippled through him, an overwhelming sense of liberation washing over his spirit. As the remaining gang members scattered, fear etched on their faces, Al turned to Tommy, who stood wide-eyed yet filled with awe. In that exchange, a bond forged in the crucible of conflict solidified. They had faced the storm together, and in doing so, Al realized he had not only reclaimed his identity, but had also become the hero he had longed to be. The moment marked a new beginning, one where fear no longer dictated their lives and hope took root in the fertile ground of their shared resilience.